Try to be as loud as possible without making it obtrusive. Again, Good Shabbos, welcome. Here in the sanctuary, Beth Shalom Temple Center in Green Valley, or those who are joining us at home. Reminder that here in Mishkan Tefillah, in our prayer book, we are using the page numbers that, at the bottom of the page that are in in brackets. It's been a long week. In the brackets, which in your book may even look as if it's a different color. But the numbers that are in the brackets. As a result, I put on the glasses. Okay. So at the top of pages, starting actually at 129, and then going back to 128. So the numbers that are in brackets. Song of Songs. Dodi li vani lo harohe bashoshanim dodi li vani lo harohe bashoshanim dodi li mizotola min hamidbar mizotola min hamidbar dodi li vani lo harohe vashoshanim dodi li Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov Umanahim shevet achim gam yachad. Dodi li vani lo harohe vashoshanim dodi li. Again, Shabbat Shalom and welcome. Ricky? Your papers are up here.
My papers.
Security and announcement.
Okay, and I'm supposed to stand.
You are.
Oh. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm Ricky Littell, member of the board, and anything that has to do with the kitchen is me. So, anyway, we welcome you, and there were a couple of new people here tonight, so I'd like to acknowledge you're new. Would you care to introduce yourself? Tell us
Who's
who you
new?
are.
Who's new?
Aren't they new?
No?
No.
Maybe new to you, and they're not new to you.
They're
They
not
may be
new,
new
but
to
they're
you. They've been
back.
gone for a while. They're
They're
back.
back.
Right, okay.
So, okay, because I'm supposed to read where everything is, and if everybody knows where the defibrillator is, the exit doors, the ladies' and men's room, the exits, if anything happens serious, a fire or something, the fire department wants us to go out that door. The fire trucks will be coming in here, we'll be going out there. So that takes care of, I think, most of these things. You know, the airline stewardess just, you know, the door's over there, the this is over there, right. So, upcoming events, this place is amazing. This is 1 month's worth. I'm not gonna read them all, for heavens, but let's see, we're now down here. The art gallery doesn't get mentioned usually, so I'll mention that it's open on Wednesdays. So that's Bev. If you have not yet signed up for the Seder, the cutoff for reservations is this Thursday, it was the 22nd, whatever
Wednesday,
date that is.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. It's going to be at the Desert Diamond Conference Center, big deal. So please get your reservations in. We have a lot of work to do. We will be assigning numbers. The tables sit 8, and you can actually make your own group if you'd like to. So that you sit with people that you like, or you can sit with strangers and meet new people. Let's see, there's Mahjong also on Wednesdays. Learn Mahjong. We have a great class going on, things that you didn't learn in Sunday school. We're sort of halfway into it, and I've heard rumors that it might be extended because it's so popular. So that's on Thursday at 2:30, I think it is. Anyway, there's one of these in the hall, in the foyer. Take a look. And now, okay, all major announcements are from the shofar. You can read the shofar online anytime you want. Okay, I'm going to turn it over, the bima over to the rabbi, or whomever is conducting the service. It says so. Not yet.
I have a choice?
Well, it is an or. There's an or.
Okay.
It's all yours.
They left out the N and
No,
the M at the
and the
end.
N.
Right, okay, right, I know, yeah. All right, okay. Thank you, Ricky.
You're welcome.
Good Shabbos. So welcoming Bonnie and Jim back. Bonnie, would you lead us in the candle blessings, please? We're on page 120, again in the numbers that are in the brackets. Page 120. Amen. Thank you. Good Shabbos. Welcome back. 124, the top of page 124. We have entered this sanctuary to welcome the Shabbat. Within these walls we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history, our endless wanderings, it has endured as a beacon of truth, of love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to live lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves together. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these sweep away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. 138 and 139. Lecha Dodi. We traditionally sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. 138, 139. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pnei Shabbat mekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmiyanu el hamiyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'l'tiferet v'l'tehila Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalala 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 pnei Shabbat Nekabela, verse 2. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshava techila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 ne Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 ne Shabbat, nekabela. Verse 5, hitoreri, kiva orech, Kumi uri, shir daveri, kivod Adonai, alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 ne Shabbat. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 ne Shabbat, nekabela. Verse 9, our tradition is that we rise and we face the door for those who are arriving. Boi v'shalom, ateret ba'ala, gam b'simcha, u'v'tzohala, toch emuneh, am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 ne Shabbat, nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalalai, 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 ne Shabbat, nekabela. You may wish to remain standing. We will continue on page 263. Again in the brackets, 263. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabah, v'yamad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, Uvchayecha Beit Yisrael, Bahagala, Uvizman Kariv, V'imeru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mivarach, Le'olam Ulol Me'ol Maya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitalal, shmeid kudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shihirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, dahamiran be'alma, v'imeru, amen. 264, our call to worship. Baruch hu et Adonai hamivorach. Baruch Adonai hamivorach leolam vaed. In the middle of the next page in English we join together. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars all testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you, and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aramim. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, I'm sorry. I had a cough. It'll come sooner. We'll try again. Take two, right? Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Havta Torah u'mitzvot Chokim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbeinu Uvkumeinu nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha Uv'mitzvotecha leolam va'ed Ki heim chayenu V'yorech yameinu Uvahem nege yomam v'layla V'yahavatcha al tasir Mimenu leolamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael Ohev Amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vahed. You may be seated. (268), page 268 in the brackets, familiar words of Deuteronomy. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha v'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha Leman tiskeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Amen. In the middle of the next page, responsively, we worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Before our eyes, there's a vision of perfection, of order, and of goodness. For when will redemption come? Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha נהדר בקודש. נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים. זה ליאנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גל Yisrael. Middle of the next page, again continuing together. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long.
You are true protection and safety. In your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace.
Over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch ata Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, lasod et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. We continue with our tefillah, Amidah, the Shemona Esrei, central part of our worship service, beginning on page 273. I invite you to rise if you're comfortable in doing so. The ark will be open. Our tradition is that we chant the first several pages together in Hebrew, and then we'll be continuing together with some Hebrew, some English, as well as on the ensuing pages. But beginning on 273, please join with me. Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufiati tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Bimotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'HaNorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevii geula livnei b'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדום מלך, מלך מביט ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש, ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יללוך, סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. You may be seated. We're in the middle of 277. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all other festival times. So it is written in your Torah, please join me, the heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done, creating there on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu ritzevim nuchatenu kadshenu v'mitzvotecha v'tein chalkenu b'toratecha sabeinu mituvecha v'samchenu b'shuatecha v'taher libenu la'avdicha be'emet v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava uvratzon Shabbat kodshecha v'yanuchu v'Yisrael mekadshei shemecha Baruch ata Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. His prayer for the Shabbat day we read together. May these hours of rest and renewal.
May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we all live in such a way that this day fulfills its promise.
Baruch ata Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Be gracious, Adonai our God, to your people Israel. Receive our prayers with love. May our worship always be acceptable to you. Fill us with the knowledge that you are near to all who seek your name in truth. Middle of the next page. Let our eyes behold your presence in our midst, in the midst of our people in Zion. Baruch ata Adonai, blessed is Adonai, whose presence redeems and returns to Zion. Modim anachnu lach. Sha'atahu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu le'olam va'ed. Sur chayenu magen yishenu atahu l'dor v'dor. Nodelecha unsaper tehilatecha al chayenu hamsurim biyadecha. Ve'al nishmotenu hapkudot lach. Ve'al nisecha shevechol yom imanu. Ve'al niflotecha v'tovotecha shevechol eit erev avoker v'tzoharayim. Hatov kilo chalu rachamecha v'hamrachem kilo talmu chasadecha me'olam kivinu lach Ve'al kulam yitbarach v'itramam shimcha malchenu tamid leolam va'ed. V'chol hachayim yoducha sela v'yahalalu et shimcha be'emet. Ha'el Yeshuatenu ve'ezratenu sela Baruch ata Adonai Hatov shimcha u'lechana'eh lehodot. We sing our prayer for peace on page 200, what is that, 282? Shalom Ra al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Ra al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki hatahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki hatahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Ra al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Ra al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'b'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Ra al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Ra al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Baruch ata Adonai hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We'll pause for a few moments of silent prayer. Shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. prayers for peace and wholeness, our prayers as well for healing, renewal, and recovery for those who are ill, those who are suffering, those who are alone in pain, those who are hospitalized and facing or recovering from surgeries and procedures. We think of them, we offer our prayers for them. May they be granted refuat hanefesh, refuat haguf, renewal of body and spirit. May they know refuah, and may they know shalemut, may they know healing, and indeed a sense of wholeness and peace. We'll pause for a moment. I invite you to consider and remember and name in your hearts those for whom you are asking these prayers of healing and wholeness and completion and peace. Before we join together in singing Debbie Friedman's interpretation of the traditional Mishaberach Lacholim, a prayer of healing for those who are ill, you'll find those words in the middle of page 371. There's also the traditional text of a prayer, or again, I invite you with the thoughts, meditations, and the words that come from our own hearts as we think of those in need, and we pray for them to know renewal and recreation of soul and of body. Sheberach Avotenu Mekor Habracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Well, I don't want anyone to be overly confused, but as of Wednesday night and Thursday of the coming week, it's an important milestone date to remember, not just because it's the deadline for reservations for the Seder. Gotcha, okay? Not just for that, but Wednesday night and all day Thursday, you can say Happy New Year. Wednesday night, Thursday is Rosh Chodesh Aviv, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It's the first day, it's the new moon. It's the first day of the first month of the year in the Jewish calendar. Wait a minute, what happened to Rosh Hashanah, right? Well, the first day of Nisan, the first day of the spring month, is Rosh Hashanah. It's one of the 4 Rosh Hashanahs in the year. Okay. The month of Nisan, the spring month, and don't hit me with that. What about Toyota? No. The month of Nisan, right, is the first month because which holiday falls in the month of Nisan? Passover, in case you didn't know, right? Okay. And Passover is the celebration of our freedom. Therefore, it's the first month. It's also nice to think of the springtime as being the beginning of the year, right? But in the Jewish calendar, month number 1 is Nisan. Month number 7 is Tishrei, when we observe Rosh Hashanah with Mike Finkelstein's shofar, right? Okay, all right. So we're halfway through that year, but we're beginning a new year, and now you're all really confused, right? Okay. So the equivalent way to think of it, although in of course in the American calendar it's every 4 years, this would be like January 20th, right? January 20th is when the president is inaugurated, right? No, okay, it's always on January 20th, although it's every 4 years. Nisan, the first of Nisan, was known as the Rosh Hashanah for the kings, because the king was always coronated on the first day of Nisan. So we have the Rosh Hashanah, New Year for the kings. We have New Year for the trees. Which holiday is that? Tu B'Shvat, right? The 15th of Shvat. Okay. We have Rosh Hashanah with the shofar. Okay, that's Yom Teruah, which is one of the sounds. Mike, what's the Teruah sound? Right. Okay. All right. So the sound of the shofar, and then what's the 4th New Year? No. Hanukkah is much later than the Torah. What's the what's the 4th New Year? Not Shavuot. The end of Sukkot, which is Simchat Torah. It's the New Year of the Torah. It's the birthday of the Torah. Okay. All right. So we have the 4. So on Wednesday, Mike, right? That's why we're doing this class. Everything, right? Okay. All right. So for Wednesday night into Thursday, which is the new moon of Nisan, the new month of Nisan, the spring month, which is the first month of the year. So having said that, please turn to page 379. Oh, I left out one question for you. See if you can pass this one. All right? So why do we change the number of the year? In other words, we're now 5783. Why next in September? I forget the exact date of when it's coming, but when will we? So we will change to 5784. Why do we change those numbers on the first day of Tishrei of the 7th month? Okay. Traditionally, this Rosh Hashanah in September, October, whenever it might be, in the 7th month, is the birthday of the world. Right, so that we mark the number of years since creation. Okay. Yes, it's more than 5,780 some years. They decided for not for scientific reasons, but for ease of memory, they decided to leave off one number at the beginning, whatever the number might be. Okay, that represent a million, represent 70,000. Who knows? They left off one number, so we just arbitrarily started counting 5,700 and almost 84 years ago. Anyway, Now that I really confused you. Okay, all right. So the blessing for the new moon, which is on 379. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu shetchadesh aleinu et hachodesh haba l'tova v'livracha v'titen lanu chayim arukim chayim shel shalom chayim shel parnasa chayim shetehei vanu ahavat Torah v'yirat shamayim chayim sheyimalu mishalot libenu l'tova v'nomar amen. Our God and God of our ancestors, please join with me. May the new month bring us goodness and blessing. May we have long life, peace, and prosperity, a life exalted by love of Torah and reverence for the divine, a life in which the longings of our hearts are fulfilled for good. Rosh Chodesh Nisan Yihye Biyom Revi'i V'Chamishi Haba. The new month of Nisan will begin on Wednesday night and into Thursday of the week to come. May it be a month and indeed a year of blessing and celebration, a sense of freedom and liberation and celebration and joy, rejoicing for all. And we say Amen. I wanted to spend a few moments, not in any prepared manner whatsoever. I admit that at first. I've gone back and forth all day today, whether should I spend a few minutes with a Devar Torah, with a little bit of a sermon teaching. We're at the end of the second book of the Torah, the end of Exodus, which means that when we finish reading this Shabbat, we say the traditional words chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek, be strong, let's strengthen each other. I was going to talk a little bit about that and what the themes are of the last several paragraphs of the book of Exodus. But I think there's something that's more pressing that I need to share with you and hopefully clarify, as opposed to what we just talked about with the Rosh Hashanah idea, and that may have confused you, but I'll try to give you some explanation and background and stimulate you to consider taking some action. And that relates to what's happening in the state of Israel. Things are so critical in Israel right now because of the political tension. We're familiar with some of it in the United States, unfortunately. It's much worse in Israel right now, so much so that you might have seen either the headline or if you've read some of the actual articles and editorials, the president of the country, president of Israel, Yitzhak Herzog, his nickname is Bougie. They call him Bougie, Bougie Herzog. But he is using words and phrases like, if we don't put an end to the hostility now and the disagreements now, there really could be civil war. And he doesn't choose those words lightly, nor do many of us around the world who look at Israel and who love Israel, nor do many of us think that he's using words that are exaggerated. You may know that now for tomorrow, it will be for the 11th straight week, there will be no less than 300,000 Israeli citizens in the streets protesting peacefully against some plans of the Netanyahu government to make changes in the structure of how the judicial system in Israel. There are some other issues, yes, but the main the main target or the main concern, the main fear of those who are protesting is the possible change that's being projected in the structure of the judicial system. My purpose for a few moments is to give you some background and understand the structure of what's happening. And then I encourage you to read on your own, newspapers, online, whatever it might be. Far be it from me to tell you how you should feel, or a particular political party or statement in Israel, for that matter, in the United States, that you should adhere to and you should follow. But I would strongly encourage everyone to be as knowledgeable as possible on what's going on. And there are some things that we need to remember. One is that Israel does not have a constitution. Okay? We do here. We have a constitution. So we have a document that we can fall back on, and that lays out the way our democratic society is supposed to work. Israel doesn't have that luxury. Not by choice, incidentally, but by virtue of the fact that they haven't had the same luxury of being able to devote all their attention to writing, debating, and then voting upon a constitution. For almost 75 years, they've been worried about their own existence rather than being pushed into the sea. So they haven't had the luxury of being able to talk about or to vote on issues that, again, we here in the United States, for example, and in many democracies around the world, that we take for granted. That's number one. They have some basic laws which were established as principles of the way the state would operate. Some would say, and add the parentheses, would operate until a constitution could be written. But there are those who say we don't really need a constitution because we've got the Torah and the Talmud and the Shulchan Aruch, and that's a different tension that plays out in modern Israel as well. Another aspect that is totally different from our understanding of how a democratic government works is that the Israeli government is a coalition government. Okay? No one out of the some 23 registered parties, of which there were like 13 in the last election, no one party has a majority of the 61 vote, bless you, of the 61, we need a majority of 61 votes in the Knesset, in the parliament. There's only one house. There's no like Senate and House of Representatives. There's one body, 120 votes. And when you start to divide those up amongst liberals and conservatives, amongst Orthodox, amongst reformers, amongst communists, amongst kibbutz members, amongst Bedouin, amongst Arabs, amongst Palestinians, amongst the ultra-Orthodox, each of whom has at least one, if not 3 or 4 parties to their name. No one party has ever had a majority in the history, in the 75 years, the history of the state of Israel. So what they need to do is they need to bargain. Jews are good at bargaining, right? Okay. They need to bargain. And sometimes the bargaining brings about a coalition of more than 61 votes so that the government feels confident to fulfill its mandate and its principles and its platform. And other times it's extremely difficult to get to those 61 plus votes. That was the case for the tentative government that was in force, and then there was the election when several of us who are here tonight were in Israel back in November. It was right at the time of the election. The results of the present election made it so that Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister again, was able to go to the far right and leave out every party that was sent not just to the left, but that was in the center. So the 65 votes that he has, the majority, represent only far right, not even the center, and certainly not the left wing of Israeli politics. And each of those parties that make up the coalition, the majority, each of them have their own agenda. And in some cases, and I use this word intentionally, each of them also have their own bias. So you have in the government, you have those people who will say publicly, openly, that we should be pushing all of the Palestinians out of the state of Israel. You have members of the coalition government who say there is no possibility that we would accept a Palestinian state on our borders. Okay. And this is not the most important, but this is one that's important to me. And some of us touched on it during a class discussion the other day. Was that only yesterday? I guess so. There are those in the government who say, under no circumstances will Reform, conservative, or liberal Orthodox streams of Judaism be allowed to be granted authenticity, permission to function in the state of Israel. Everything has to be according to ultra-Orthodox law. Now, each of those parties insists, demands that their, again, call it a bias, call it agenda, call it their particular platform, has to be respected by the rest of the majority coalition, because if not, if Netanyahu or one of the others would say, well, listen, we don't like that idea about the ultra-Orthodox being in charge of everything, we're not going to accept that. Then the ultra-Orthodox and their 6 or 7 votes will say, okay, goodbye. We'll leave the government. And Netanyahu and the rest of his parties don't want that to happen, so they'll give in to the ultra-Orthodox. Similarly, with those who say we need to, and I'm using a quote which he has now since taken back, but one of the ministers in the government who said we need to wipe out the Palestinians who live within our borders. He has walked that back, but that was in an initial statement. And again, if the rest of the coalition says, wait a minute, we don't agree, that's too far, he goes, okay, well, I'm going to take my 5-6 votes and we're going to go, and your government will fall. And so everyone gives in to everyone else. And all of those demands are all from the far right and from the ultra-Orthodox. So it's difficult for us to comprehend how that could happen when 60% at least of the population is on record as being in the center politically, if not to the left. Okay? So you have the plurality of 40% that's now controlling the entire country, and that's why you get hundreds of thousands of Israelis who are showing up and protesting peacefully in the streets, blocking. I mean, we have members of the congregation who just flew back from Israel the other night. I haven't heard whether they're trying to get to the airport, if the roads to the airport were blocked. I don't know, but that's what they've been doing. So it's an extremely tense situation there. Again, I would ask you, do some reading, do some research. If you are so inclined, send a letter, send an email, whether it's to Mr. Netanyahu, whether it's to the Minister of Diaspora Jewish Affairs, and just say that you are concerned. You are concerned, we are concerned for what this means for the state of Israel. Having said all that, on the level of concern, on the level of fear, I just want to also say, and I said it I think 2 weeks ago, okay, that does not mean that we withhold any of our spiritual or any of our emotional support and love for Israel. I don't know about you, but there are certainly members of my family who I disagree with, politically. I would rather not be sitting with them at Passover, at Thanksgiving, whatever. We disagree, and we don't even disagree agreeably. Okay? But we are still family. We are still family, and we know that. So there are ways to communicate our concern. If you share the concern, if you need to know, if you need some ideas on what to do or what to read or what to be able to say, seek me out, and I'll try to help. But it's totally trying to understand. Well, how could this happen? It can happen because their structure is totally different than the structure that we hold so dear here. It is still a democratic process, and compared to most of the other countries in the Middle East, it is, it is very, 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 very democratic. But right now, the democratic status of the state of Israel is running a little too close to becoming a theocracy rather than a democracy, and answerable only to those who have the most right-wing and the most ultra-Orthodox, which affects every single one of you and not just me, the most ultra-Orthodox of ways to see how society should continue, I guess. I'm not even going to get into issues of women's rights, and some of those kinds of things. So read, if you will, seek it out, write letters, and we'll find the opportunity to learn more as we go. We will have the opportunity to celebrate with the entire metropolitan Tucson community, Jewish and non-Jewish, on April 27th, Sunday, April 27th, which is when we as a community will be marking the 75th anniversary of the state of Israel. No matter what we may disagree, as angry as we might feel the love is still there, the pride is still there in what Israel has accomplished. April 27th, I believe, we're double checking the time, I believe it's in the afternoon at the JCC. We're working on arrangements for transportation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Beth Shalom Temple Center is going to have a booth there. We will be present. We will be participating to be able to share our support and pride in the miracle of Israel having reached 75 years. Yes, Joe, please.
I think April 27th is a Thursday. I think the Sunday is.
I'm sorry, you're right. April 30th.
Thank you.
I have something else important happening on the April 27th. Okay, all right. Yeah, April 30th. Right. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Only because I'm
Two-
taking a bunch of kids to Pima County Fair on the 26th.
There you go. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
all I
Too
know.
Too much in my head. I said it wasn't a planned out thing. Okay. We will continue. Page 586 in the bracketed pages. 586 Aleinu. The ark will be open. I invite you to rise if you're comfortable in doing so, and we join in chanting together. The bottom of 586. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'kol, la'tekenu la'liotzer b'reishit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, l'ifnei melech, Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. 588. Shehu Noteh Shamayim V'Yosher Haaretz Moshav Yekaro B'Shamayim Imal U'Shchinatu Zo V'Govei Meromim Hu Eloheinu Eino Emet Malkeinu Efezulato Kagatu B'Torahato V'yadata Hayom V'Hashemota Elevavecha Ki Adonai Hu Elohim B'Shamayim Imam V'Al Haaretz Mitachat Eino. 591. V'nehemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. Be seated. .597, the bracketed pages 597. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth. We remember our own loved ones and those whom our friends and neighbors have lost. The martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, they died al Kiddush Hashem, in the sanctification of God's name. Innocent victims of senseless acts of hatred, terrorism, and racism around the world, as well as victims of natural disasters, and those who selflessly gave their lives in the service of forces of decency and democracy around the world. Those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We remember them and we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We honor the memories of loved ones who have been taken to their eternal home. So recently, even in the past month or so, we think of Maynard Telpner and Sally Telpner and Wanda Wolofsky. We remember those who have died in the past year: Celia Abramson, Helen Beckelman, David Allen Gaiman, Wendy Wallach-Levy, Ronald Nassilo, Tim Orrick, Louis Palm, Michael Rabin, Eric Rotenberg, and Lawrence Vogel. And we recite the names of our loved ones, the anniversary of whose death, their yahrzeits we observe at this season. We think of Jack Atlas, Zelda Beam, Beverly Bender, Reba Berger, Alfred Cohn, Thelma Cohn, Bradley Dillon, Frank Farber, Hortense Feldman, Jane Marie Feldman, Helene Fish, Evelyn Alof Gorel, Eunice Konikoff, Edith Levy, Linda Metz, Molly Nernberg, Philip Israel Rosenblatt, Julius Schachter, Joseph Schlenberg, Morris Sirota, Rose Weinstein, and Max Weitzman. Are there others whose names wish to mention, add to our list, please?
Barbara Chaparro Dema, my sister-in-law.
We remember them, we honor the memories of those as well of our people, those who perished in the Shoah, countless others whose names are unknown, for whom there is no one to recite their Kaddish. The words of the memorial prayer are on page 598. Our tradition is that we rise in sympathy with those who mourn. Together we recite these words as they are hallowed by centuries of faith. We praise God's name. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei rabbah, v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, ba'alav v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach leolam ulolmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, Yitpa'ar v'itramam v'itnaseh, v'itadar v'italev v'talal shmei kudsha barichu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, huya seh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol b'nei Adam v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring comfort to those who are bereaved amongst us. May God, in answer to our prayers, bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all humanity, to which we say, Amen. Amen. Please be seated. My thanks to those who have assisted in the worship this evening. After we conclude with Adon Olam and Shabbat Shalom, we'll join in the back for Kiddush and Motzi. So Adon Olam is on 625. 625 with the bracketed pages. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, the Terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'ed Nasa, Bechefzo Kol, Alzai Melech, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא היה did I lose you? בתפארה. והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה. והוא אחד והוא אלי ואין גואלי, וצור חבלי בית אישן, והוא right ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום מקרא. That's the beginning. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה, והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה. בידו הפקיד רוחי בעת אישן, והעירה ועם רוחי גוויעתי. אדוני לי ולא אירא. Last time. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה, והוא היה והוא הווה בתפארה. שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת 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 שלום, שבת שלום, שבת שלום, שבת 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 shalom. Shabbat shalom, a good Shabbos, please.